Hello Alberta, this is Frank Severely Normal, back for another Severely Normal Frank talk. So, in the last video, I got a little confused. I put these in the wrong spot, these two things. So, right now I'm going to quickly go back over everything that I've gone over that I have here, because these are facts. Sustainability Fund, excusing the seniors. Ralph says we're paid in full. Calls an election and wins it in a landslide based on those three things, one of which was a lie, paid in full. That wasn't paid in full. Then he gave us Ralph bucks, I believe, when he realized how he'd been used by the party. Then he retired and Stelmach came in and was acclaimed premier in their in-house election. Okay, and then he was elected in February 2008 because he ran an election based on, by this time in 2008, we were somewhere between 5 billion and 13.9 billion in the Sustainability Fund, which by now had morphed into the Contingency Fund. It went from Sustainability, it got renamed, it's a Contingency Fund. Now in one of the previous videos, I gave you a definition on sustainability. Now I'm going to give you the definition of contingency. A future event or circumstance that is possible but cannot be predicted with certainty. A provision for an unforeseen event or circumstance. We didn't know it was going to happen. It's unforeseen. It's an unforeseen contingency. No. This was all pre-planned. Many steps, many moving parts, this fraud on the public purse. Okay, so now the Sustainability Fund, by this time, is the Contingency Fund. Now, they announced, by now we had this big bauble up here. It might have been at 10 billion or 12 billion. And at the same time, they announced, when they called the election as one of their election platforms, they said, oh, once we're elected, nobody will have to pay Alberta Healthcare Premium Funds. That was an election promise. And so they got elected on the promise of tax break. But this was a poison pill for the people of Alberta. So then they were elected. Whoa, something else happened. Something else happened in between. Hang on one second. I just have to grab a pen. Here, I got it. I got my pen. Something else happened here. So, before they were elected, during the elections, they promised the destruction. Well, they said it's tax relief, but it was the destruction of the Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax, the collection thereof. Also, elected in February 2008, not in the Stelmach cabinet, but in opposition, sitting as a newly elected member of Edmonton Strathcona, was one Rachel Notley. Rachel. Where have we heard that name before? Rachel Notley. Miss Mother Earth. Rachel got elected. So she was there in 2008 when Iris Evans announced that yes, we confirm. They were elected and she confirmed that they were going to eliminate the Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax starting on January 1st of 2009. And they did. And they quit doing their job, collecting the money that keeps our purse full. Now you may say, oh, well, we didn't like that tax. Well, you don't like income tax, but they won't eliminate that because we need it. We need the Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax. Now, since this is a chain of events, now we're getting in a proper order. One, excuse the seniors, Ralph says paid in full. You notice how I keep going over this because I want you to get this in your head that they promised this. And this was a bad thing, but after having been squeezed for 12 years by Ralph, you were ready for any tax relief that for crumbs you were ready for. So you accepted that the seniors, even if they were millionaires, wouldn't pay their taxes because it was some form of tax relief. You accepted that you didn't have a social responsibility, that you didn't have to pay your Alberta healthcare premiums because it was some form of tax relief. So it wiped out the whole system. And as somebody said in front of the TV cameras when questioned, after the 2008 election, a minister or a government spokesman or whatever, I remember seeing this on TV. He was asked by a member of the media, how are you going to replace the money that used to be Oh, don't worry about it. It's just a minor 1.2 billion, mere 1.2 billion out of an overall budget. That overall budget actually was 30, it is 60 now with Rachel, $37.5 billion. $37.5 billion, oh here it is, $37.5 billion. So Ed was elected and he didn't do much because the useful idiot, sorry, don't mean to call people names, but Lenin said it first. You only let them know what they got to know and you use them. He was used as a useful idiot by the Progressive Conservative Association of Alberta to be brought in as Premier to pass this. Whether he knew what the effects were going to be or not, he did it. It was an act. He passed it. This is all on public record in the newspapers and in their official actions. So, number 7 was Stelmach being anointed Premier. Number 8 was promising to destroy, that's what they said they were going to do. They ran on that platform. We are going to eliminate the Alberta healthcare, the collection of the Alberta healthcare premium tax. Pointing to that big bauble, we have $11 billion in royalties this year. We're rich, making you believe, like a bank says these days, you're richer than you think. Listen, folks, politics is all smoke and mirrors. Oh, look at the money you have here. Oh, gee, we don't know where it went. So in 2009, after that, Ed did not too much. And everything he did seemed to go wrong. And we kept going farther into the toilet. But there was a structural hole in our budget now. A structural hole in how we collect our taxes that the rise and fall of resource revenue just couldn't cover up anymore. So, you notice I have Premier Lougheed and Don Getty down here. Well, a lot of you weren't alive when this happened. In 1968, Ernest Manning, yes, Preston's daddy. Preston's name is Ernest. Ernest Preston Manning. They call him Preston to differentiate the father from the son. In 1968, Ernest Manning, the Premier of Alberta, retired, and Harry Strong, who was his longtime Minister of Agriculture and later Minister of Municipal Affairs, ran with 5 other candidates for the leadership of the leadership of the social credit government of the day. And Harry Strong won election. Won the party leadership, and so was then the Premier. Now, at that time, the big talk was, how are we going to pay for the health care, the rising cost of health care, because it was only 2 years after the imposition of the Canada Health Act. So they came up with the Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax. In 1969, Harry Strong was the Premier. But sitting in the legislature as leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, when Harry Strong government brought in the Alberta Healthcare Premium, was was a young lawyer, head of a newly named party. I don't know when they morphed, but they did. They were the Conservative Association of Alberta, and they morphed into the Progressive Conservative Association of Alberta, with their leader, Peter Lougheed, and his henchman, Don Getty, and 4 others sitting in the legislature. So the Progressive Conservative Association of Alberta cannot say they did not know the importance of the Alberta healthcare premium tax. And now you can say you cannot say you don't know the importance of the Alberta healthcare premium tax. It was brought in to make up the difference for the rising costs of healthcare. And how is it any different today, and why don't we have it? So, now, we got to do these associations. So that's Premier Ed Stelmach, and we're pretty much done with him. So I'm going to retire Mr. Stelmach to the bottom of the pile. Mr. Stelmach goes in the bottom of the pile. And then they have Mr. Stelmach. Just things didn't go so well because they couldn't go well because of the structural deficit in the budget. So he retired. And they had a leadership race. Hang on, let's put Mr. Stelmach over here, who he was associated with. Mr. Stelmach. So we might as well put someone else on here who was also a premier. Redford. That way I don't have to come back and put her later. So we're getting into her premiership. Alison Redford in the top of the pile. So now, the first act, I told you that it was broken off in 2 acts. The first act was Ralph saying the seniors don't have to pay. The second act was Stelmach running on, getting elected, and eliminating the Alberta healthcare premium tax. Boom! $1.2 billion. We don't need it. We needed it for 40 years. How come all of a sudden we don't need it? We're getting to that. So Ed Stelmach is retired. Put him there. And we come to Alison Redford. Now, Alison Redford, Senior Policy Advisor to Joe Clark. Joe Clark. So, Secretary of State for External Affairs, Occupation Lawyer. Ooh, a lot of lawyers in the government. Minister of Justice, elected as MLA in 2008, Minister of Justice, Attorney General, as Premier. She resigned on March 23rd and resigned as an MLA on the 2014. But in the time she was Premier, a lot of politicking happening. Not much governance. So, Stelmach retires and she is elected. I don't know exactly when Stelmach retired. Let's look up here. I have it up here. Oh, Stelmach retired and we got into Alison Redford just after 2009. Now we had Redford. I don't know the exact when they had this all leadership race, but as you recall, it was Gary Moore pretty much against Alison Redford. And in the end, Alison Redford, they're promising the teachers union, the ATA, that she'd restore some funding if they'd only buy memberships to Progressive Conservative Association and vote for her to be the head of the association. If they bought those memberships, then once she was Premier, she'd restore this funding to this special interest group, the Alberta Teachers Association. So that's how she got elected Premier. Then she did not much. And then she squared off against Daniel Smith of the Wild Rose. And Yell Smith, I used to have great hope for her. Against Daniel Smith of the Wild Rose, and she was re-elected in 2012. Acts. In 2012, she was re-elected. Now, she appointed as her finance minister Mr. Dougie Horner. I can call you Dougie, can't I? I'm sure when you were in short pants, they called you Dougie. Dougie Horner, accredited by the Institute of Canadian Bankers. Really? As her finance minister. What did Dougie do? Oh, yes. So now, we need to wait a suitable period. So it's been 5 years between this act and this act, and between the seniors getting off of it and the rest of the population. Nobody's paying this tax anymore. There it is. Shows up. Nobody's paying it. And there's the effect when you add interest and population increase. And there's the budget. There's our deficit. See any correlation, folks? Of course you do. So, Redford had this fight with Danielle Smith. In the election, after she got the ATA to buy memberships and get her elected head of the Progressive Conservative Association of Alberta. Then she fought it out with Danielle Smith. And you know, all that stuff came up with the Lake of Fire and to paint Danielle Smith's party as a bunch of Neanderthals dragging their knuckles. And so Redford won the election of 2012. She is the premier, elected, not just appointed and anointed now. She's elected by the population. Okay, and now I think I'm going to wrap up today's video because this is a very special section once Redford's elected. This is a very, very special section. And right now, as we go off camera, I'm going to go and put Mr. Doug Horner over here. I'm going to put Mr. Doug Horner on the association, Progressive Conservative Association board, but I'm also going to put Mr. Doug Horner up here with the banks. Banks are big business. Mr. Horner, because he's accredited by the Association of Canadian Bankers. So, Mr. Horner, who was our finance minister, is accredited by the Association of Canadian Bankers. This is Frank Severity Normal. The next video is going to be awesome. Have a nice day.